So Season 2 of the Overwatch League is over, and the grand finals were not what many people were expecting. My name is Malik, and today we are going to talk about the grand finals and how the San Francisco Shock brought the force of nature to their knees and beat the Vancouver Titans, claiming the title of Overwatch League champions. The Vancouver Titans are a rookie team, and that is something that we should keep in mind. This is their first time being to a grand finals of this scale, and the San Francisco Shock have been in the league a lot longer. They have more veteran players. That being said, though, this could have been an off day, but the Vancouver Titans did not perform like their normal selves. They were scattered, they overextended, and they used too many ultimates in losing fights. Their unwillingness to change and adapt to the San Francisco Shock's playstyle is ultimately what led them to fail. But what was the composition that made the Vancouver Titans break? Well, let's get down to it. So for most of the matches, the Titans played their standard Reaper, Mei, Orisa, Sigma, Ana, and Lucio. Now the Shock threw the book out the window completely and decided to play their very own bunker composition. Now they played with a Mei, a Bastion, an Orisa, a Sigma, an Ana, and a Baptiste. Now on both sides, the Ana was sometimes swapped out for a Moira, which is understandable considering that there is a Mei on the field. Additionally, a few times as a variation on this composition, instead of a Mei, they would throw in a Pharah, and instead of the Ana, they would throw in a Mercy. At that point, no angle was safe, and not only did you have to deal with an immortality field, but you also had to deal with Mercy's resurrection. And of course, as we know now, the Titans were not able to deal with it. Now, while both of these compositions are about control, this one with the Mei relies on Bastion breaking the shield and leaving the enemy team open to being frozen and separated. The name of the game is control and isolation. Now, in this composition, Mei offers crowd control via her Blizzard to trap whole teams. She can use her wall to limit movement and create traps, or her primary fire to freeze individual targets. Bastion's job here is to shred through the Orisa and Sigma shields and leave the Titans vulnerable to incoming damage. Orisa and Sigma are staple tanks in this meta, and they have the most impactful toolkits. Orisa being able to pull opponents out of target or away from being retreated. It also allows her to pull them into ultimates, into a Sigma ult, and Sigma's Gravitic Flux has been such a useful tool for breaking up bunker compositions for teams. Ana has immense healing potential, but her Sleep Dart and Anti-Grenade have proven time and time again to be effective anti-dive tools. Ana's Nano Boost is just another tool that boosts up the damage output that her team can do and further causes pressure on the enemy team. Now, Baptiste is another element to ensure that this bunker composition stays on its feet and can withstand a dive long enough to cripple the enemy team and get themselves back to health. His amplification matrix is a deadly boost to a setup Bastion and allows him to pour out damage, especially if he is set up on a payload. Shield management is crucial when you're dealing with a Bastion like this, and by the time they got close to him, Mei was ready to freeze them or wall them off. Another issue that the Vancouver Titans faced is when the San Francisco Shock opted to choose a Moira instead of the Ana. Moira's orbs are able to go through shields and cause damage, and her coalescence is able to hit multiple targets at once, doing damage and healing, which makes it an incredible tool if you can get all of your ducks in a row. The Vancouver Titans didn't seem to know what to do, and the amplification matrix mixed with the nano mixed with the supercharger meant that the San Francisco Shock was going to be pumping out massive damage at all times, and what this does is it also forces teams to retreat and wait for the duration of the ultimate before they can push again. Otherwise, they're going to be going up against twice, 3 times as much of normal damage as they're used to. In this clip on screen, you can see how the San Francisco Shock moved forward and set up on this bridge. As Somin Su starts to move forward, the Mei helps up the Orisa and they get on top. They wait for the Vancouver Titans to move out, and when they're ready, they drop down with a supercharger, a Blizzard, and a Gravitic Flux. You can see it's kind of chaos But Choyobin on the side of the San Francisco Shock hunts down the Lucio and the Ana while the Bastion sits on the point and Architect does the work, takes out Tizzy and the rest of the Vancouver Titans. Now, when we talk about controlling the enemy team in the league, there is no better example than this one right here. Now, Choyobin, Architect, and Moth as Bastion, Sigma, and Batiste, they set up on this high ground in the back, but what they're really doing is keeping pressure on the Titans so that way they can't peek this corner and they can't stop the San Francisco Shock from getting progress on the point. They are pushing the payload for free at this point until the Vancouver Titans can regroup and try to get out from behind this corner and stop that Bastion. As the Vancouver Titans start to make their move, they get walled off into this room, and this is just another form of how May's crowd control is an insanely useful utility. The payload still moves forward steadily, and the Vancouver Titans look uncertain about where they want to go. Their window for engagement is rapidly closing as the payload grows closer to their hiding spot. You'll see a May wall pop up in the back, and while it may look like it was misplaced, I will explain why he put it there in a second. Tizzy engages from the front, keeping the payload at a standstill, while the rest of his team flanks through this small room, trying to get an advantage or the drop on the San Francisco Shock. Unfortunately, Rascal is having none of that, and he puts up this May wall and inevitably splits up the Vancouver Titans on their push. Architect is able to sweep through the rest of the Vancouver Titans, and it's just not pretty. Taking a look at this engagement from another perspective, that of the Ana on the San Francisco Shock, you can kind of see how things went wrong for the Vancouver Titans. As he plays in the backline, keeping his team healed, he actually sleeps Haksal before he can even really get through the doorway. Of course, Lucio gets the beat, but Ana does spot the Reaper, which that May wall before was used for. See, Haksal put that May wall up so that way Reaper could come through the alleyway without having to use Rayform to get close to the Bastion. Now, Twilight gives Sominsu on Reaper that nano boost, and he goes ape in the back. He's able to kill Architect, who was playing Bastion, and he was also able to kill Moth, who was on the Batiste, but as he drops down and tries to go for the rest of the San Francisco Shock, Violet is sitting in the back and waits to give him a nice little well-deserved rest. Now, I don't know what kind of Overwatch reporter I would be if I didn't talk about the annoying new trend that is going on, and yes, that is the icon-walled chandelier Bastion. Architect has started an awful trend in games, and it is complete nightmare, but hey, it's kind of funny if you get up there and you're able to do some damage like he did. This is just one of those examples where the San Francisco Shock were thinking outside of the box and were able to just really put the Vancouver Titans out of their element and make them uncomfortable and keep the pressure on the entire time. Rascal was one of the first players to really give Batiste limelight in the Overwatch League, and now his fair play is bringing him back into the spotlight. Here you can see how he controls the Vancouver Titans, raining rockets down, forcing the Vancouver Titans to stay indoors, and at times Sigma has to use his shield. Now you can see how they think the Vancouver Titans are going to come through this little corridor, but instead they quickly backtrack and start to go through the other entrance. When they start to come through this entrance, they are greeted by rockets from the Pharah. Sigma has to use his shield to keep the whole team safe, but it is not any good as the concussion blast knocks them all out of place. The Vancouver Titans were constantly scattered and could only go inside the building for refuge from the constant damage from either the Bastion or the Pharah. What Pharah was able to do is get in the back line and harass the team without having any consequences really. Unlike a Mei, she doesn't have to stay with the team because she's so mobile that she can get herself in and out of scenarios fairly easy. Pair that up with a Mercy that can go back and forth, and you've got yourself a dynamic duo. Here you can see that Smurf goes down because the Vancouver Titans were able to throw a barrier behind him, not allowing him to be healed. Not to worry though, the San Francisco Shock came prepared for this because Batiste throws down his immortality field, Bastion sits in the middle of the doorway and fires in relentlessly, while Mercy swoops in and revives Smurf. The Vancouver Titans decide to rotate around the bottom and try to go after Choyobin, but once again Rascal fires a concussive blast in and knocks the Vancouver Titans back and gives Choyobin just enough space and time to survive. The rest of the San Francisco Shock turn on the Vancouver Titans and force them back into the building once again. There's a lot of transitioning and little movements that go on, but slowly as the Vancouver Titans find courage to get out of the house and collapse on Architect, Rascal swoops back in to save the day and unloads a barrage right in the face of the Vancouver Titans, putting them down and stopping their push.
Trying to put some pressure, but that's going to be the rocket barrage trying to save San Francisco.
The Vancouver Titans had a moment of hope though, as they were able to flank the San Francisco Shock at one point on Eichenwald, get behind them, throw in a blizzard, keep some pressure in the front, and they were able to do kind of a split push on the San Francisco Shock and sandwich them between consistent and heavy damage. The May Blizzard came out, so Min-Soo used his Reaper ultimate, and Orisa stayed and pushed on the point, but they were able to get that full push.
Coming from multiple different angles, finally unraveling the defensive hold for the Shock, and 2 minutes 50 are on the clock. The Titans are going to get to the end of the match.
Gibraltar was a fairly clean sweep for the San Francisco Shock in the end because the Vancouver Titans overextended, used ultimates at the wrong moments, and overall just kind of failed to get footing. It was sad to watch the Vancouver Titans end their season like this, but it was also amazing to see the San Francisco Shock adapt a new playstyle so quickly and dominate with it in the grand finals of all things. Have you guys been seeing this kind of playstyle in your games? Let me know if you have or not, and what you think of this. Let me know what you guys are excited for. We got the Gauntlet coming up pretty soon for Overwatch contenders, and then the Overwatch World Cup will be coming up as well. Let me know what kind of content you guys want to see. Drop a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, have a good one.